Invest in a junior mining company is it's very risky, to be honest, but the potential return could be really high. If we can put these two mines into production, they will combine producing almost 19 million ounces of silver on an annual basis.
I'm here with Jalen Yuan. He's the CEO of New Pacific Metals Corp. That's NUAG on the TSX Venture Exchange and NEWP on the NYSE ARCA. Very interesting project based in Bolivia. He'll be talking about the two silver deposits that they currently own, and we'll be talking about the next steps for not just his company, but the entire silver industry now that silver is at unprecedented levels. Welcome to the show, Jalen. Good to see you.
Thank you, David. Yeah.
Before we talk about the company in detail, tell us about this current environment and what is different for miners, specifically for miners at $100 silver versus just a few months ago, $30 silver. What is different in the space operationally?
Well, that's a very broad question, to be honest. But I can say that all mining companies are happy. There's no complaints, right? Last year, I think at the beginning of last year, silver was under $30. Like now, we're trading above $80, in the range of $80 to $100. So that's 3 or 4 times last year's price, and I think all mining companies' share price were also multiplied by at least 4 times or 3 to 4 times, some even more, 5 to 6 times during this just a short 1 year span. So that actually is significant return for any of the investors if they have been invested in mining companies in the sector.
In a period where the entire sector is doing well valuations-wise because of the reasons you just stated, how can a mining company differentiate themselves from other companies in their peer group? So both producers as well as early-stage explorers.
Right. I think for any company in general, not just for mining, I mean, focusing on the business fundamentals is still the key.
For sure.
For any investors to look into, right? So for producers, obviously, you look at their profitability, to their ability to generate like free cash flows. Those things are the things that I think investors should be eyeing on. And for more particularly for junior mining companies, exploration companies like us in the sector, then you really need to eye in on the project itself, whether it is a good project with resource potential or not, or is it in a jurisdiction that is friendly to operate and get mines permitted and moving on to the development and eventually to the commercial production stage and those things. Obviously, that also ties into whether the project is good enough to attract other big companies' interest to acquire your project or your company.
Help us understand the appeal of an exploration company in today's environment. Some people might look at the silver price and say, hey, Jalen, look, the silver price is already up more than 100% in less than 6 months. Now, no one knows the future, but let's suppose this bull market is not over yet. Right. That's very good returns for anybody. Why would I look at a mining company when the underlying metal is already doing so well? What is the additional appeal? Well,
the additional appeal is, you're absolutely right, because the metal price we cannot predict.
Sure.
Right? No mining company has any significant influence or impact on the world metal prices anyway, right? But that to me, the metal price is more meaningful to big companies that are in the producing stage because that directly impacts their bottom line. Right? The higher the price is, obviously, the more revenue they have, the more profit they make. But for a junior company, the catch is always on the resource potential and the huge multiplier that can be applied to that company once either through like further exploration to define more resource, or you're advancing your project to the next level. Right? Let's say if you get it permitted, if you get the mine built, usually you will see that company's market cap multiplies multiple times. So that's the fundamental part that is not really related to metal price. For junior mining companies.
So is it fair to say that investing in an exploration company is kind of like a call option on silver? You know, either you make the discovery, and then we exercise the call option because it's in the money, or it doesn't and it's out of the money and nothing happens, right? Is that one way to look at it?
Yes, I think it's fair to some degree to say that. Yeah. Like you invest in a junior mining company it's very risky, to be honest, but the potential return could be really high.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very normal to see a junior mining company stock move 5 times, even 10 times in a relatively short period in 1 year, 1 or 2 years period. So it's very common. But also it's very common to see junior mining companies goes nowhere.
So let's take your company as an example and help us understand the fundamentals of your company. Right. So your company is based in Bolivia. You have 2 silver projects. What is your ultimate goal with this company? And help us understand the upside potential for your company.
Right. So maybe take the chance to explain a bit of our company's projects at this moment. So we are an exploration company that owns 2 world-class silver deposits in Bolivia. We acquired these projects in the year 2017 and 2019. And since then, we've done like very extensive exploration and diamond drilling programs on these 2 projects, which we led to our current like advanced studies, PFS for one of the project called Silver Sand, and PEA for the other project called Carangas. So through these exploration programs and advanced studies, we define these 2 projects on paper as having world-class potential. In other words, if we can put these 2 mines into production, they will combine producing almost 19 million ounces of silver on an annual basis. And that would put our company very comparable to those big players like Pan American Silver, First Majestic Silvers in the silver sector. Yeah. So basically, that's the fundamentals of our company at the moment.
Would you be open to a takeover or buyout, or are you set on production? Is that your ultimate goal?
Yeah, our ultimate goal is to get these 2 mines permitted, constructed, and go into production by ourselves.
Okay.
Right. That's our ultimate goal. Yeah, I can make it very clear to the investors.
Yeah.
But that being said, I mean, there are so few good silver projects on the market at the moment. So our projects definitely attract a lot of attention from big players in the market.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about your shareholder structure in a bit more detail. So there's currently 2 large silver players that own a significant chunk of your equity. So we'll talk about that just a bit. Let's talk about Bolivia as a jurisdiction. So South America is very rich in deposits. That's the upside. However, currently, as everybody is aware, there's an economic crisis in Bolivia. So negative GDP contraction, very high inflation. How does that impact your business?
Right, you're absolutely right. Bolivia as a jurisdiction is very famous for its abundant natural resource, especially mineral resource, and in particular the silver resource in that region. So what has happened in Bolivia in the past 20 years was the country was under socialist parties ruling for the past 20 years, which its policies not particularly friendly towards the private sector mining or attracting foreign investments. Simple fact is that the country hasn't been granting any mining permits or making any major mine developments to any foreign companies in the past 20 years. Right, we've been there since 2017. We're the almost the only company since 2017 that made significant discoveries of silver resource in that region. But that being said, the political scheme has changed significantly last year during their recent national election. Because before that national election, the socialist parties always control both of the Congress and the Senate by having like more than 50% of the seats in both, right? But the last year's national elections results shows that all the left-wing parties combined, they represent only less than 10% of the seats in both Congress and the Senate. So Bolivia, I think Bolivian people, they're thinking it's time for a change. Based on the reason that you mentioned, the country is in economic crisis, mainly driven by the shortage of US dollar reserves, which led to the inflation, and which led to the scarce of necessary daily supplies, especially in gas and diesel, those things. And the new government, I think they're on their top political and economic agenda is to get the country out of this economic crisis. Yeah. In simple words, they need money flowing into the country, right? Also, the new government has been openly citing to revive private sector mining and also to bring in good quality foreign investments as a critical solution to their economic crisis. So at that level, we think at macro level, our two projects permitting and development agenda perfectly aligns with the country's overall economic and political agenda. Mm-hmm. Because our two projects will combine over $700 million of initial investment into the country if they can get us permitted. Right. We've been actively working with the current government to socialize these ideas. The message we send to the government is very clear. Like, it's very nice for you guys to send out those open message to the world, welcoming everybody to start investing into Bolivia as a very resource, like a potential place for resource. But what would be even better is to set up good examples in a company like us to actually do something, right? Get us permitted, get the mines developed and built. These good examples worth more than 10,000 of words. Mm-hmm. So,
well, it's good that you're in touch with the government because investors might be concerned about nationalization risk. Can you talk about that? Bolivia has had a history, even as recently in the last 20 years, of nationalizing some deposits in their country, oil and gas and also lithium. How can you convince investors this will not happen here?
Right. But as I'm saying, like the last 20 years, the Bolivian government is a very different one. Mm-hmm. It's basically, its policies more towards the left-wing socialism side. But this new government is more center to right side, that's for leaning. And also the President Rodrigo Paz himself openly saying, like, bring capitalism back to Bolivia. Right? And as I'm saying, they also looking at reviving the private sector mining and attracting foreign investments as the key solution to their country's economic problem. So at the current stage, I don't think nationalize anything would be in the government's interest because they're really just shooting themselves in the foot if they're doing so.
Yeah. So let's talk about the permitting process. Right. How far along are you right now?
We're actually just made some very recent progress on one of our projects, which is Carangas project. We reached community agreement with the local community there. So maybe before I jump into the project level, explain a little bit of our high-level overall permitting strategies. Yeah. So we're taking both of a top-down and a bottom-up approach at the same time. By top-down, I mean we obviously need to gain access and build meaningful relationships with government officers and influential peoples across all levels of the government that is relevant to the permitting process. Because all these permits needs to go to their Congress and Senate for approval, right? But at the same time, the team is more focused on doing it bottom-up. Yeah. By saying that, bottom-up means we want to build a very solid foundation at the project level. Yeah. That means very good community relations, regional alliance with other stakeholders in the areas. So those are the foundation that I'm talking about, because we want to build this foundation and present a very nice package for the government to approve. That's our goal. Now jump into the project specifics. For Carangas, as I'm saying, we just signed framework agreements with the local community. So that's a big step forward at the project foundation level. With that in hand, now we're moving on to completing some technical aspects of our current permitting. So for that project, we're currently under the conversion of our existing exploration licenses into mining licenses. And we're expecting to have that maybe completed mid-2026, so let's say June or July this year. So right after that, we will start the application of the environmental license, and internally we'll do a feasibility study on the project simultaneously to figure out the detailed engineering and how we want to build the mine.
The preliminary feasibility studies were done for Silver Sand and Carangas in 2024, correct?
It's actually a pre-feasibility study for Silver Sand and a preliminary economic assessment for Carangas. And you're right, both of those were done in 2024.
Were there updates since 2024?
No, no updates yet. But as I'm saying, we're planning on doing a feasibility study for Carangas later this year. That would be a big upgrade from the preliminary economic assessment.
The NPV, I'm reading on this slide, the NPV for Silver Sand, as of the preliminary feasibility study in 2024, is $740 million.
Right.
And Carangas is a PEA, is NPV is $501 million. That's based on $24 silver.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you were to adjust that for today's silver, how would your market cap change?
Oh, you simply multiplies it by 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we would be over 2 billion.
Why do you think the market is not accurately updating this price change?
Well, the market will obviously have the freedom to do it themselves, right? Yeah. But we're restricted to do it on our own.
Sure.
Yeah, it has to go through a proper process of.
But this is an interesting aspect that I've encountered with many miners, not just yourself, that their PEA or their pre-feasibility study have NPVs of a certain number based on a much lower asset price at the time. And if you were to adjust that for today's prices, which the market is not doing, their market cap should be much, much higher. So, is there a reason why investors, you think, are not capturing this change right now, up to date?
I think that statement is only partially true.
Okay.
Right? Because if you look at our market cap today, I think some of the factors already factored into it.
Yeah.
Just last week, we were trading over $1 billion US on the market cap. That's obviously significantly higher than right, the two projects added up together. And also, you have to factor in the risk factor of a junior company.
That's
as I'm saying, like these NPVs are just defined on paper. What does it really mean if we cannot get the mines permitted? So the market probably take that into consideration as well, right? They always see whether your company can move forward to get your mine actually permitted and built as the major risk for any junior mining company with defined assets, like in our situation. And quite frankly, I don't blame any of those, right? I think that's a fair discount. That's an honest answer, right? That's why at management level, we tend to not look too much into the current hot market price and those things because, as I'm saying, that's beyond our control, right? What we are focusing on is to get to the ground, work with local communities, work with the government to actually get our mines permitted. That's more important. Once we made those fundamental milestones, that will significantly lift our, let's say, our floor price of our share.
Investors always want to talk to the management team and say, hey, why is it taking so long to permit a project? Happens all the time. How do you answer that question? What are some of the obstacles you have to overcome?
Well, the main obstacles for permitting in the jurisdiction like Bolivia comes from 2 fronts. One is at the project level. You have to deal with local communities. You're dealing with different people all the time. It's always very challenging and dynamic, right? I think all mining companies are facing similar issues, right? The other ones in a jurisdiction like Bolivia, as I'm saying, there hasn't been any permits granted in the past 20 years. So even just following the standard procedures there could present some sort of challenges sometimes, just because even the government is not too familiar of doing that. But we are working closely on both fronts, and we've made significant progress since last year. And the signing of the community agreements with the Carangas community is a perfect example and a proof of that. And as I mentioned, that we've been making very meaningful progress with this new Bolivia government.
Let's assume everything goes to plan. Then what is your projected timeline to getting into production?
Right. As I'm saying, we intend to start the application of the environmental license second half of this year. And that process alone likely take another 12 to 18 months to complete. So ideally, we're looking at the end of 2027 or beginning of 2028 as the starting phase of construction of our mines. Then the construction itself likely takes another 2 years.
Yeah.
So if everything goes well, towards 2030 will be the starting of commercial production for our projects.
It says here the capital expenditure for Silver Sand is $358 million. Karanga is around $324 million. Combined, that's almost $700 million. That's 70% of your current market cap. So how do you intend to fund production?
Oh, I think if we get these two mines permitted, there shouldn't be any problem when we go into the capital market to raise funds for it. It's likely will be a mix of equity and a debt or some convertibles by then. But as I'm saying, with these two world-class silver projects as the fundamental and with all the permits in place, I don't foresee any issues that we raising that kind of money in the capital market.
You're planning to produce this yourself and operate it yourself, or do you think you're going to a JV with somebody else and do it?
Well, the options are all open, but as I'm saying, the current management's focus is on like getting it permitted and getting these mines built and going into production by ourselves.
Yeah.
But strategic windows can open at any point.
What if permitting takes longer than expected? What is your backup plan?
Well, it's hard to say that we have a backup plan for the permitting because for any company to run the project at this current stage, permitting is the only focus. We need to get it permitted. If we cannot get it permitted, someone else have to get it permitted. So it's hard to say we have a backup plan. Right? But all I can say is if it gets delayed, then it will be reflected on our share price. So we'll be trading at a heavier discount if we cannot get it permitted. But then maybe at a lower value, some other big guys may jump in to trying to just grab it as a bargain.
An opportunity for in both ways. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Pan American Silver currently owns 11.5%. 28% is owned by Silvercorp Metals. Tell us about the nature of your relationship with both these companies.
Of course, yeah. Both has been long-term strategic partners in our company since 2017. Right? They always maintain their pro rata share in our company, passing every round of financing in the past. And both has been providing us with very valuable suggestions and advices from time to time, and we appreciate it very much, and we expect them to continue support us in the same fashion going forward.
Okay, and the operations, though, it's still independently operated by your management team, right?
Absolutely. It's 100% independent, operated by the New Pacific management team.
Okay, and do you think that the shareholder structure will change anytime soon, meaning these companies will own less or more of your shares?
I don't foresee that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think these two strategic partners will maintain their pro rata share in our share structure.
Okay, very good. Tell us give us more detail about your drilling program. We talked a lot about the permitting stage, but tell us about the 30,000 meter drilling program.
Yeah, we're going to do plus 30,000 meters drilling at our Karangas project this year, likely starting in the second quarter of 2026. The idea of doing this drilling program is we allocated 2/3 of the meterage to do infill and resource definition drilling, trying to just enhance our existing resource at the upper level silver zone and also at the deep level gold zone. And then we'll do 1/3 of the meterage into further exploration drilling, mainly targeting the deep level gold zone. And we'll also allocate some meterage to one of the previously identified IP anomalies, trying to find new resource somewhere else.
Okay. And well, management is always important for the investors. Investors want to know who the management team is. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your professional background leading up to what you currently do.
Sure, yeah. I'm actually coming from a financial background. I'm a chartered professional accountant registered in Canada. I joined the mining industry with Silvercorp in 2009, so almost 17 years ago. right? Worked way up all the way through the rank. And in 2015, I was appointed as Chief Financial Officer for New Pacific Metals Corp, which is my current company. And just last year, I think in April, I was appointed CEO for the company.
Yes.
Yeah.
The biggest lessons you learned transitioning from accountant to management in a mining company, what were they?
Obviously, it's a life-changing change for myself and for the company, right? Because as I'm saying, and I'm coming from a financial background, but to me, at CEO level, it's more leadership and how you lead the team, set up clear objectives, make day-to-day, week-to-week action plans to achieve those objectives, and communicate those plans to your subordinates, assign tasks, work with them together, right? Be at the front line. For example, myself, since I took over as CEO, I spent over 75% of my time in Bolivia, working very closely with our frontline people to resolve all these permitting issues. Right? Then collecting timely feedbacks, assess the situation, and then make adjustments, timely adjustments. So that's my style. And I don't think any particular background, being geology or mining or financial things, that matters that much. It's mainly the leadership, the vision, and those things that you can provide to your team, and how you organize your team, how you promote the morale, and how you attract everyone to work around you towards the same objective.
Okay, well, thank you, Jalen.
Yeah, thank you, David.
I appreciate your insights. Tell us where we can find more information about your company.
The most straightforward way is to go to our company's website, which is www.newpacificmetals.com.
When can we expect the next news release?
It's a bit hard to tell.
Okay.
I mean, we're issuing news release based on real progress.
Yeah.
But hopefully, like the rest of 2026, we would be able to provide our investors or potential investors with a stream of good news release based on real milestone progress.
Your stock is up, just for the audience to know. In 2025, around last year, it was just under $1.50.
Right.
It's at $5.12. How are you celebrating?
With more hard work.
Okay, all right. Great. Thank you very much, Jalen.
Thanks a lot, David.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.